Om Agana Chivarandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Jena Toshmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale. Next word.
Swayam.
Swayam Rupagada Mayam Dadati Swaparantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Parakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Mitam Tang Sajivam Shadvaitam Shabhadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakan Vitanscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Sapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusuti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapachuvascha Kripa Sindhu Vivacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya
Narayanam Namaskritya
Naramacheva Narottamam
Chaiva Narottamam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devam Saraswatam Vyasam
Tato Jayamudiraye
Jayamudiraye
Nasta Presho Bhadreshu
Astapreshu Bhadreshu
Nityam Bhagavat Shevaya
Nam Bhagavata Sevaya
Bhagavad Yuktama Shloke
Bhagavad-yutama-shloke
Bhakti Bhavati Naistaki.
Bhakti Naistaki.
Today, Thursday, May 29th, 2025. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, The Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 28, Paranjana becomes a woman in his next life. Text number 41. Sakshad Bhagavato Tena
Sakshat Bhagavato-tena
Guruna Hadina Nripa
Guruna-hina-vipa
Vishuddha Jnana Deepena
Vishuddha-jnana-deepena
Spurata Vishvato Mukham
Sutta-vishvato-mukam
Sakshad Bhagavato Kena
Sakshat Bhagavato-tena
Guruna Hadina Nripa
Guruna-hina-vipa
Vishuddha Jnana Deepena
Vishuddha-jnana-deepena
Spurata Vishvato Mukham
Sutta-vishvato-mukam
Sakshad Bhagavato Tena
Sakshat Bhagavato-tena
Guruna Hadina Nripa
Guruna-hina-vipa
Vishuddha Jnana Deepena
Vishuddha-jnana-deepena
Spurata Vishvato Mukham
Sutta-vishvato-mukam
Shakshad Bhagavatoktena
Sakshada Bhagavatoktena Guruna Harina Nripa Vishuddha Jnana Deepena Surata Vishvato Mukam Sakshad Bhagavatoktena Guruna Harina Nripa Vishuddha Jnana Deepena Surata Vishvato Mukam
Sakshad Bhagavatam
Sakshad Bhagavatoktena Guruna Harina Nripa Vishuddha Jnana Deepena Surata Vishvato Mukam. The synonyms, please repeat. Sakshat, directly. Bhagavata, by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Uktena, instructed. Guruna, the spiritual master. Harina, by Lord Hari. Nripa, O King. Vishuddha, pure. Jnana, knowledge. Deepena, by the light of. Spurata, enlightening. Vishvata Mukam, all angles of vision. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. In this way, King Malayadhwaja attained perfect knowledge, because in his pure state, he was directly instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By means of such enlightening transcendental knowledge, he could understand everything from all angles of vision. Please repeat. In this way, King Malayadhwaja attained perfect knowledge, because in his pure state, he was directly instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By means of such enlightening transcendental knowledge, he could understand everything from all angles of vision. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. In this verse, the words Sakshad Bhagavatoktena Guruna Harina are very significant. The Supreme Personality of Godhead speaks directly to the individual soul when the devotee has completely purified himself by rendering devotional service to the Lord. Lord Krishna confirms this also in Bhagavad Gita 10:10. Tesham satata yuktanam vajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi jogam tam jena mam upayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. The Lord is the super soul seated in everyone's heart, and he acts as the Chaitya Guru, the spiritual master within. However, he gives direct instructions only to the advanced pure devotees. In the beginning, when a devotee is serious and sincere, the Lord gives him directions from within to approach a bona fide spiritual master. When one is trained by the spiritual master, according to the regulative principles of devotional service, and is situated on the platform of spontaneous attachment for the Lord, Ragha Bhakti, the Lord also gives instructions from within. Tesham satata yuktanam vajatam priti purvakam vidhami buddhi jogam tam. This distinct advantage is obtained by a liberated soul. Having obtained this stage, King Malayadhwaja was directly in touch with the Supreme Lord and was receiving instructions from him directly. Sakshat Bhagavatok Tena Guruna Harina Nripa Vishuddha Jnana Deepena Urata Vishwato Mukham. In this way, King Maladhoja attained perfect knowledge because in his pure state, he was directly instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By means of such enlightening transcendental knowledge, he could understand everything from all angles of vision. Mukum karoti vachalam pangam ragayate girim tatkripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dhiratharinam. So there's from this verse and purport, there's a sort of a simultaneous oneness and difference with this point about the devotee being instructed by the supersoul. When one is on the more elevated stage, then he directly receives instruction from the supersoul. And Prabhupada speaks as if to say only on that stage. But at the same time, he explains how the Lord instructs a sincere devotee, or one who's not yet a devotee, from within to approach a bona fide spiritual master. So it is both. And he also says that only this elevated soul is directly receiving the instruction from the super soul, but also we can take it to mean that only that elevated soul is hearing that instruction, and that actually the Lord is instructing always, all the time, anyway, whether you hear him or not. If you're very advanced in Krishna consciousness, then you can hear the instruction of the Lord. And if you're not very advanced, you are not hearing. But maybe you're hearing a little bit. And Srila Prabhupada elsewhere explains that intelligence is the form direction of the supersoul. So the intelligence that we get from within is a type of instruction from the supersoul as well. Sarvasya chaham hridi sanidiksto matak smritir jnanam apohanam cha. Krishna says that Sarvasya chaham hridi sanidiksto. I am situated in the heart of everyone. And matak smritir, from me, memory comes, jnanam and knowledge, apohanam cha, as well as forgetfulness. So you can say, well, gee, that rascal is in Maya. He's not hearing Krishna very well, but actually Krishna is giving him the power of forgetfulness. The power to be a demon. That is also coming from Krishna. According to one's attitude towards the Lord, then he reciprocates. And if one is bound and determined to forget Krishna, Krishna will certainly reciprocate with that. But that is the most unfortunate condition for the living entity, to forget about Krishna and think that I myself know everything. And sometimes people say, well, I don't need a spiritual master. I am my own spiritual master. I know everything. And therefore, the injunction is there in learned circles that one who has accepted himself as his own spiritual master has a fool for a disciple. And sometimes people are in this illusion. We have heard in our preaching over the years many times, foolish people claiming that they are their own guru. So they have accepted a great fool as a disciple, and they will continue on in their foolish ways until they are enlightened by association with a devotee. Or perhaps something else may happen in their life, some type of disaster that brings them to their knees. And then they pray to God for deliverance or for help. They seek guidance in that way. Sometimes that happens. I know myself, I was in touch with the Krishna conscious movement, but without any intention to surrender. Because I had many plans and many things to accomplish. Actually, I still have those same plans. Even though over a course of a lifetime they have come to naught. But then the Lord intervened in such a way that I realized that persons who were close to me, friends and family, they did not have my best interest at heart. And they did not want me to take to Krishna consciousness. And when I realized that, then immediately I thought, I have to surrender now. Okay, I put it off for as long as I can. And it's not working. It's not going anywhere. I thought my good karma would carry me through, but it failed me just when I needed it the most. And then I realized that failure of fortune was actually an intervention by the Lord to give me a dope slap. Hey, wake up, dummy. Get it together, become Krishna conscious. So at that moment, I was like, okay, I get it. Don't do any more. Put the brakes on. Now, okay, yes. Now is the time. So when is the time to surrender? Actually, now is the time. In the Vedic injunction, Atato Brahma Jigas states, but that's from the Vedanta Sutra, Atato Brahma Jigas. Now that you have this human form of life, immediately engage yourself in Brahma Jigas. Inquire into the truth of Krishna consciousness and immediately begin to perform that. So when should one begin? Komara acharat pragyo dharman bhagavata iha durlabam manusha janma api dhruvam artadam. That's Prahlad Maharaj. That from the very tender age of childhood, komara acharat pragyo dharman bhagavata iha. One should take to Krishna consciousness. Durlabam manusham janma. This human birth, this is actually very rare. It is difficult to attain. We take it for granted. Hey, I'm living in the world. I'm a man, I'm a woman, whatever. I think I am. Now we don't think Atato Brahma Jigas, we think Atato Bhoga Jigas. Now's the time to figure out how to get more sense gratification. That is a natural proclivity of the conditioned soul. One who has not taken shelter of the super soul, the Paramatma. So then in the 18th chapter, Krishna says in the 10th chapter, Prabhupada quotes here twice in the same purport, Tesham Satata Yuktanam, that to those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come closer to me, or which they can come to me. So we can say on one level that anyone who is in the Krishna consciousness movement and following the instructions that Srila Prabhupada has given us from Shastra, then they have gotten that mercy of the super soul. Maybe not on the platform of, surely not on the platform of King Maladhwaj, who was so advanced. And Prabhupada mentions the word raga bhakti here. On the platform of attachment to Krishna, purely, then he is receiving all direct instruction from the super soul. The super soul is his guru. And that is called in Sanskrit Chaitya Guru, the guru within. There's a very nice verse spoken by Uddhava in the Uddhava Gita, which is in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, chapter 29, verse 6. Where did it go? There it is. Naivo padyantya apichitim kavayastavesha Rama yusapi kritam ridha buddha svaranta Yontar bahistanu britam ashubham vidhunvan, acharya chaitya vapusha, swagatim vyanakti. O my Lord, transcendental poets and experts in spiritual science could not fully express their indebtedness to you, even if they were endowed with the prolonged lifetime of Brahma. For you appear in two features, externally as the Acharya and internally as the Supersoul, to deliver the embodied living being by directing him how to come to you. So that's the 1-2 punch that how Krishna appears to the conditioned soul. Externally as the spiritual master. So that is the manifestation of Krishna. And internally as the super soul. That is the other manifestation of Krishna. But he is so kind that he comes in that two-pronged attack, like a double-edged sword. One, slice off your attachments. Two, slice off your material desires. So that is accomplished through the Acharya, who is the external manifestation of Krishna. And as if that weren't enough, just in case it weren't enough, also internally as the super soul. And interestingly enough, Prabhupada makes this wonderful statement, as he makes so many wonderful statements in so many places. In this purport to the chapter 10, verse 10, Tesham Saktadutanam, he says that even if one has a spiritual master and he is attached to a spiritual organization, ISKCON is actually the only spiritual organization I've ever actually encountered in reality. But even if, despite those advantages, Prabhupada said, if one is not intelligent enough to take advantage of all these facilities, still the super soul within will give him good instruction to become Krishna conscious. So someone may have all the advantages and facilities, human form of life, spiritual master, part of ISKCON, and still he can't get it together and fumbles and bumbles and stumbles like we all do from time to time, or all the time, some of the time or all of the time. Still from within, as the super soul, Krishna helps us. Dadami buddhi yogam tam yenama upayantite. Upa means to come nearer. So Krishna gives us the opportunity to come nearer to him. But the caveat is tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. Serving with love, constantly serving with love, to the best of one's ability. Not everyone has the same ability. I was hearing a lecture, Prabhupada says that someone has a very fast car, and someone else maybe have an old, slow, beat-up car. But they are both cars, and they will take one to the destination. It's just the person with the supercharger car gets there a little quicker. His quarter mile is a lot faster than the old jalopy. But whatever one's condition, whatever one's situation, whatever one's particular combination of guna and karma, and everyone has their own particular combination of these things, guna and karma. Guna means qualities, and karma means set of facilities that you've gotten as a result of your activities in your previous lives. So someone is very rich and someone else is very poor. Does that mean that automatically the rich person becomes more spiritually advanced because he's rich? No. But he does have good facility. Because he's rich, he doesn't have to struggle with the mundane daily activities of life. Whereas a poor man, he's struggling to get enough food to eat. But that is not the yardstick by which one's spiritual advancement is measured. It's not by one's Janmaishvarya Shutashibir Edamara Madak Puman Naivar Harabidatumbai Tomakinchana Gocharam. That those who are on the path of material progress trying to improve themselves by good birth and education and bodily beauty, these things. Janma means the birth. That means birth in a good family. Of course, there's not much you can do about that once you take that birth in the family. But you can try to associate with the higher sections of society. Janmaishvarya, material opulence. Shruta, learning. Shribir, bodily beauty. And what can you do to improve your bodily beauty? Well, there are many, many, many makeup videos on YouTube, which our granddaughter takes shelter of. But she doesn't need to. She's already a beautiful child, so you don't need all that stuff. You don't need to make your eyelashes go from here to here, you know? And they put the eyelashes on so thick and glue them on there that it looks like some alien species, you know, that lives on a planet where there's a lot of dust, so they have all these filters. And that's not required. But one tries to improve oneself, Shribir, through bodily beauty. So one who is thus on the path of material progress, attempting to endeavor in that way, they have a hard time taking shelter of Krishna. Whereas someone who is bereft on the material platform, Tvamla Kinchana Gocharam, they actually have an advantageous position because they're not bewildered by attachment to those external things. So that is a statement, a very famous statement of Queen Kunti. Naibahara Vidatumbai, Tvamla Kinchana Gocharam. Akinchana means one who doesn't have anything. There's one devotee in Alachua, a devotee named Akinchana Krishna. Kinch, we call him. And he has that wonderful name. One who has nothing, but only he has Krishna as his only possession. And that is a fortunate person. And his destination is glorious, who is taking shelter of Krishna and leaving aside all material considerations. So someone, don't take advantage, someone may try, but don't take advantage of leaving aside all material considerations like, you know, being clean, and closing the door, and washing your hands after prasadam. You know, I've left aside all material considerations. You know, he's got one sock on his ear, and, you know, coping's tied around his ankles. You know. Prabhu, that is all material. And I have often said, and was recently quoted as saying, that for a devotee, well, there was one Frenchman. He was a scholar and somewhat interested in our movement, and had visited many temples. And Ganga Mantri has told us this story, and he had said that the devotees, I think, are like the head in the clouds. Because the devotees not being able to get it together on the material platform. But yes, head in the clouds, head in the spiritual world, but both feet firmly on the ground. And Srila Prabhupada was certainly not a head in the clouds man. He was extremely practical and a very good manager and wanted everything done properly. Even his godbrothers would criticize him. They said, oh, that Bhaktivedanta, he's a good businessman. He's expert at dealing with those low-class people, those malechas, those Westerners. What kind of criticism is that? Yes, Prabhupada is expert manager, and he is rescuing the fallen souls and converting them into Vaishnavas. How can you criticize that? That's actually he's the empowered representative of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world. What kind of argument can you make against that? The proof of the pudding is in the tasting. You can apalene parachiyate. You can judge a thing by its results. Pala means fruit. So you can tell something by the fruit. What is the fruit of this preaching? Well, now there's hundreds and thousands and zillions of devotees all over the world, and so many temples, so many books printed, distributed, so many nice programs going on. And the Harinam Sankirtan movement has increased significantly, even since his departure. But to speak of what Hayagriva termed the Hare Krishna explosion, he wrote a book like that, about the beginning days of the Krishna conscious movement. It wasn't an explosion at first blush, but after a little while, Prabhupada said this movement really started about 1969, 1970, even though the first devotees were initiated in 1966, because it took a while to build a little momentum. But the early 1970s, there was a great Hare Krishna explosion. So much so that when I was a teenager in the early 1970s, the existence of the Krishna conscious movement came to my attention in the form of an article from the Associated Press that was picked up in our local paper, the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, that published an article about San Francisco Rath Yatra. And there was a picture of the devotees dancing in the Rath Yatra. And I'll never forget it because I read the article. I was fascinated somehow. And it explained how some of the devotees who wore their orange robes had dyed their Converse high-top tennis shoes, their Converse All-Star tennis shoes, orange, to match their saffron robes. And I read that, and I was like, yeah, now you're talking. Matchy, matchy. You know, dye those tennis shoes to match the saffron robes. And I thought to myself, how cool is that? And that was an article in the newspaper that we read and thoroughly enjoyed for some reason. There was an attraction, an innate attraction there. How wonderful is that? And then later, not very much later, a Back to Godhead magazine came to my girlfriend's house. Her mother went to the shopping center, came home with a BTG. And I was sitting on the couch and they said, "Here, you read this. This is something you will like." And yes, I did like it. How did they know? How did they know I was going to become a devotee? I do not understand. They knew something I didn't. And in that Back to Godhead magazine, there was an article called Attaining Shelter. And there was a very nice picture of Srila Prabhupada with a chadar around his head, the famous gray wool chadar around his head. And that article explained the process of bhakti, that the devotees chant the holy names of Krishna, the Hare Krishna mantra, and it spelled out the mantra, 16 rounds, which they explained was 1,728 names, chanted every day that took about 2 hours. And that struck me. Wow, 2 hours? Because I was a young musician, and you know, if you want to get good as a musician, they say, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? How do you get to perform on that stage? Practice, practice, practice. So anyone who was studying music and wanted to get good, it was an open secret. You had to practice and practice. And some kids who became great guitar players, they would practice, you know, they would go in their room and never come out. They would get their fingers all bloody. They would just play and play and play and play. And then later on, it paid off. They became very accomplished virtuosos. So practice, practice, practice. There was a story about, what was his name? Francisco Tárrega is a Spanish guitarist and composer and educator in the 19th century who would simply play all day and all night, playing his guitar and writing music and practicing. And then our guitar teacher in college told us the story. His wife said, "Francisco, there's no food in the icebox. We need some money." He said, "I am practicing. Money will come." So, because he was just simply playing. There was another story. There was a guy named, what was his name? I forget his name right now, Tommy something or other. And he was a guitar luminary. And so he was just playing his guitar all the time and then would do some gigs. And then he had to move from one apartment to the other apartment. So he's sitting on the bed, it's time to move, the friends come over. Okay, Tommy, it's time to move. He's sitting on the bed playing the guitar, and he says, just pick up the bed while I'm playing guitar and put it in the truck and I'll keep playing. And they picked up the bed and put it in the pickup truck, and he's still playing, and they're driving to the new apartment. He's still sitting on the bed playing. So that's called Vyavasayatmika Buddhi, Ekeha Kudu Nandana, on the mundane platform. But that is a principle that applies in the life of a devotee. Vyavasayatmika Buddhi, that Ekeha, one should have one pointed intelligence fixed in Krishna consciousness. And it was the commentary by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur on that verse where he explained that one should have complete faith and wholehearted attachment to the order of the spiritual master. Indeed, one should make the order of the spiritual master his life and soul. And Srila Prabhupada read that commentary and was purportedly struck by that, because he knew his spiritual master had ordered him to preach in English and spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. And so he focused on accomplishing that task, even though it took him practically his whole adult life to the point where he was able to accomplish it. But gradually he worked one-pointed. I have to follow the order of my spiritual master. My spiritual master has ordered me to preach in English, and he's ordered me to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, and I have to do it. And he did it. Talk about Ekeha, one-pointed focus. He carried out that order. That is not ordinary thing. It is not an ordinary story, but it is extraordinary. Coming on the rather crude steamship, the Jaladuta, which is just basically a giant tin can, across half of the world at age 69, having 2 heart attacks. Prabhupada was not in great health when he started out. And having those 2 heart attacks, you can imagine how that doesn't help. I mean, heart attacks on a boat at sea, there's no doctor, there's nothing. No hospital, no machines, no medicine. But then later, he told his friend Bhagaji, whom he swore to secrecy. Bhagaji was a good friend of Prabhupada's in Vrindavan. And Prabhupada told Bhagaji, according to Bhagaji, that Krishna came and massaged his heart. Well, after he had the heart attacks on the Jaladuta. So what better medicine can you get than a massage from Krishna? And then he told Bhagaji, you cannot tell anyone that. So Bhagaji didn't tell anyone that till some number of years after Prabhupada had departed. Then finally, he said, I have to tell you something to the devotees in Vrindavan, that Prabhupada told me this, that he would have perished, but Krishna came and massaged his heart, fixed him up. Gave him the ultimate cure for his, because, and Prabhupada had said, I should have died. That should have been it. But Krishna wanted me to do something. So he saved me. And again, Prabhupada said the same thing when he had a stroke in 1967 in New York. He said, that should have been it. But again, and he told the devotees to pray to Krishna, please, Krishna, you cure Srila Prabhupada, cure our spiritual master, because he has not finished his business of preaching on your behalf. And the devotees prayed to Krishna, and then Prabhupada did recover. And then he went back to India at that time, to Vrindavan. And then when he came back, he appeared much younger than before, and stronger, and more fired up, more robust, even than he had been previously. It's like he got a new lease on life from Krishna, and that would have been in 1968 to finish his job of spreading the Krishna conscious movement all over the world. At that time, there were only a few temples. So New York, San Francisco, Boston, Montreal. That was it. So, because he was Ekeha Kurunandana, fixed on the order of his spiritual master, then he was able to accomplish so many things, although we can also say that Srila Prabhupada was just not like some, pharmacist from Calcutta, or anything like that. Maybe in external terms, you could say that, but actually he was Sinapati Bhakta. He's the empowered general in the army of Lord Chaitanya, who's carrying out Lord Chaitanya's business. Even though it is so glorious, his victory of establishing Krishna consciousness, after suffering so many struggles in his own personal life throughout the 1940s and the 1950s and the 1960s, so many struggles, the struggles of poverty and obscurity, and no one to help him, no backing. Just like Buddhism was spread all over India by Emperor Ashoka through his influence. Well, yeah, he's a king. He's rich. He's got the army. Everyone bows down to him. Everyone follows his instruction. He was able to propagate Buddhism throughout the entire subcontinent of India, which spread also into China and Nepal was part of India, Tibet, and Thailand, and other places in the world. The Buddhism was able to spread because there was patronage from the big king. But Srila Prabhupada did not have any patronage from any big king, or even his godbrothers just refused to help him. They just weren't interested. That is Bhaktivedanta Babu, that is his idea. We are doing our own thing, having our little ashrams and doing a little preaching. But Prabhupada said that his disease was that he could not think small. He could only think big. And he did think big, and he accomplished big, big things. And then when the ball began to really get rolling by Krishna's mercy, then Prabhupada got even more fired up. Schemes for spreading Krishna consciousness all over the place. Europe, North America, South America, Asia. And then in 1970, he returned to India with a band of devotees to start the preaching there. And so someone had asked him, but Prabhupada, I thought that, you were supposed to preach in the Western countries. Prabhupada says, I've already done that. Now I'm returning to India, and as my own personal project, I'm going to make India Krishna conscious. Which, wow, did he succeed. The Krishna conscious movement in India is unbelievably expanded and powerful, with zillions of devotees. Even the Prime Minister of India, he's a friend of the Krishna consciousness movement. Especially Gopal Krishna Maharaj was a good spiritual advisor and friend to Prime Minister Modi. And I read Indraduma Swami was recovering at some place in Delhi, a hotel, and there was some big wedding or something taking place there. And then he heard that the Prime Minister was coming. So he went down to the reception and he stood there. And Indraduma Swami, he's not a short fellow. He's a big fellow, big sannyasi. And Prime Minister India, the Prime Minister caught sight of him and stopped to talk with him. And then they exchange contact information like that. So he also developed a relationship with him. And he was very interested, the Prime Minister. although he's criticized for this and for that, still, he is a great supporter and friend of our movement in India, and he's the Prime Minister. He's like Emperor Ashoka. So, all this by way of Vyavasayatmika Buddhi, Ekeha Kurunandana. Srila Prabhupada exhibited that single-mindedness, that unbreakable determination to carry out the order of his spiritual master. And then as far as the super soul goes, Srila Prabhupada said about his books, I have not written these books. Krishna has written these books. So this is also a very special manifestation of the super soul, is the books of Srila Prabhupada, because they've been given by Krishna. And then Bhavananda recounts the story, how talking with Prabhupada in his room in Mayapur, and Prabhupada said, Krishna told me, I want you to go down to the material world. And Prabhupada said, oh, I don't want to go down there. I had to do so many austerities, and it's such a difficult situation. And Krishna said, no, no, no. You don't have to do any austerity. You just go and write the books. Prabhupada's own words, according to the account of Bhavananda. One of those rare times when Prabhupada revealed something of his relationship with Krishna. Devotees asked Prabhupada one time, Srila Prabhupada, exactly who are you in your relationship with Krishna? Because there are different speculations. Oh, Prabhupada is this and Prabhupada is that. And Prabhupada said, if I told you, you would not believe me. So we don't know. We didn't get the exact answer. The speculation is there. Prabhupada's godbrothers used to say he was a cowherd boy, that he was in Vatsalya Ras. How they knew that, I don't know, but that was what they said. But so if we knew who Prabhupada really was, we might faint and have a heart attack on the spot. Oh my God, that's who Prabhupada really is? No way. So Prabhupada said, you wouldn't believe me. But I would. If he told me, I would believe him. So, as incredible as the truth may be, you know, Hayagriva had written in his book, The Hare Krishna Explosion, about how when the devotees were there at 26 Second Avenue, a very small band of devotees, and they had gone up to Ananda Ashram, which was Dr. Mishra's little place in the country, a house in the country. There's a little lake there, a little pond. And so there was not room for all the devotees in the house. So some of the devotees slept out by the river, by the lake. And Hayagriva had a dream that night that in his dream there was this golden effulgent youth, so incredibly beautiful, so incredibly effulgent, so filled with spiritual potency. And everyone was gathered around in this huge crowd. And then as he got closer, he realized it was Srila Prabhupada in his spiritual form. And he asked him, Prabhupada, well, why don't you exhibit this form to us? And Prabhupada said, if I did that, people would be just attracted to my beauty and not follow me for my teachings. So therefore, he was more interested in printing books than exhibiting some golden, effulgent spiritual form. And then Hayagriva woke up from that dream, and he was like, oh, I can't believe what I just saw in that dream. Here's Prabhupada, this effulgent, golden, powerful personality from the spiritual world. And yet here he is, appearing as if he's an old man from Calcutta. But no ordinary old man was that. Of course, sometimes he exhibited such things. During the Ratha Yatra in New York City in 1976, one of the New York City cops nudged a devotee, and he pointed to Prabhupada and he said, your leader, that man, he's glowing. He could see Prabhupada's effulgence. And he was astounded because he'd never seen anyone with an effulgence before. But somehow or other, he got the mercy to see Srila Prabhupada's effulgence. He said, that man is glowing. Where do you see that? You know, they did in the paintings from the Renaissance, they always painted effulgence or glowing around the saints. So such a saint, I saw to was Srila Prabhupada, the glowing, golden, effulgent youth from the spiritual world. They said, people would follow me for my beauty, not my teachings. He said, I'm more interested that people follow me for my teachings. All right, so we will stop here. Questions, comments, realizations? Pavitra.
Just two things. I had a comment and then I had a question. Before I joined the temple in Los Angeles, I was close to when I was actually moving in. I was sitting in my little apartment and I had a crate and then I had a candle and then I had some guru or something there. And I was sitting there in a meditative state on the candle with my eyes closed, trying to meditate because I'm learning all this stuff in Los Angeles on how to meditate. And I realized, I opened my eyes, I said, this is ridiculous. It's going to take me millions and millions of years. I don't have time for this. My life is so short. I said, I need an elevator to the top. I don't have time for this. So one Sunday feast I was visiting, I was in the gift shop and Pranada was at the counter in the gift shop. And we were talking back and forth and she said to me, Krishna consciousness is like an elevator to the top. And it completely blew my mind. That she's one of the main reasons that I actually moved in the temple.
What was that?
Pranada.
Oh, Pranada.
You know Pranada?
Oh, yeah.
It's in Alachua now. And these things were happening to me, so I knew that there was a connection there, which brings me to the next subject is I'd always been under the impression, I think we were talking about it yesterday, about intelligence. And we know that intelligence comes from Paramatma, proper intelligence. Somehow or other in the conversation, somebody commented, whoever was speaking yesterday, commented on intelligence. We use our intelligence, but then we have intelligence from Krishna. But I thought that our intelligence, all our intelligence, came from Krishna, and sometimes we use that intelligence that he gives us, and sometimes we don't.
No, we always use it. Sometimes we just misuse it.
Okay,
For the
all
wrong
right.
reason.
But we don't have independently, quote unquote, our own intelligence.
Well, we don't have independently anything.
Anything, yeah, right.
Everything
Okay.
is coming from Krishna, our very existence, our raison d'etre, our existential reality. So nothing is separate from Krishna.
Right.
But, you know, like the car, some cars are faster and some cars are slower. So some people are endowed with more intelligence than others, and they should use that in the service of Krishna. There are many, many super intelligent people in the world.
Yes.
Scholars, philosophers, academicians, creative people, artists, writers, but they're not using the gift of intelligence they've been given for the right reason. So therefore, they've misused their intelligence.
They're born with a higher IQ possibly, or
Yeah,
some good
IQ
karma with music or poetry or
Yeah, the IQ thing is a bit bogus.
business. So in that sense, then we would be misusing our free will. We will be using our own free will to do what we want to do
Yeah,
instead
we
of
take that intelligence that's given by God and we use it for a bad reason or the wrong reason.
Yeah. I just wanted to clarify that. Yeah, I mean, I know that. I bet. I thought that there was a slight misunderstanding yesterday. I don't know how I got that, but I did.
Well, I gave the class.
Oh, you gave the class. Oh, boy.
I
Well-
didn't hear it because I was using my intelligence to put together a table and some chairs.
No, if you read Gita 7:15 purport.
Yeah.
Merits, like Dhiro was talking about.
That was, I'm sure that was my mistake.
So it's, if we miss it, it's Duskriti or Sukriti, depending on how we use it. We either use it piously or impiously. So just read that purport.
And this whole thing about IQ is bogus anyway. I know because I took the IQ test and they measured my IQ as 140. I'm like, you know, it's not how smart you are, it's how good you are at taking tests. You know, somebody's a good test taker can fake out the IQ test and thinking, oh, he's very brilliant. You know?
My father,
I had this discussion with Pushkar, who also has 140 IQ. Again, measured at age 12.
my
We were laughing at that.
son's wife's daughter, father. My son's wife's father was told to have an IQ of 170. I don't know if this is true or not. He designed the chandelier in the TOVP.
Oh,
Yeah, he designed it. Got his name now. But, and he also has a medical degree. He's a doctor. And he has a master's degree in astronomy. So he's got this incredible intelligence, but he sort of kind of left Krishna consciousness a little bit. And
IQ just went down to 80. Okay, next, who wants to add to the discussion? Chandrika.
So I was just thinking about what you said earlier about like the eyelashes and like that. And, you know, it seems like, you know, Prabhupada, you know, came here and so many different odd people, if you like, became devotees. And it's sort of like in the fashion or the style, like the eyelashes or tattoos or ear gauges. And people seem to be attracted to Krishna consciousness no matter what. And in a way, it's important for people to see that people that are, you know, fashionable or that have style or certain styles can still be connected with Krishna. So elaborate on that.
I was shaving my head long before it was cool. Now you have like leaders of government and stuff, like the governor of Florida has a shaved head, or the former governor. What's his name? Rick something or other. So, yes. And what's cooler than dhotis and saris? What's cooler than that? Aside from those baggy yogi pants that the crotch goes down to the knees or something like that. All right, anyone else? All right, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
I apologize, I was not here.